Welcome to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. And as always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, the one, the only, the irrefutable Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you this evening?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Just plugging away here, getting to the end of May here. Of course, this weekend, it's hard to believe that I'm saying this. This weekend is Memorial Day weekend. And of course, you being the big lacrosse guy you are, lacrosse season is starting to wind down. Of course, you got championship weekend at Gillette Stadium this weekend. But it's hard to believe that we're at this point. Of course, Patriots are chugging along with their OTAs. The portal is nonstop. Recruiting is nonstop. We're now entering the camp phase of the offseason here in the next couple of weeks in the football world. But as always, man, plenty going on to keep you busy.
Well, it's funny today, stepping outside, it feels like September, October, Saturday, Sunday morning. So it felt like football season this morning, at least to me and throughout the day. So,
Yeah, I thought it felt more like late March, early April, where you get those cold, still remind you that winter's not officially done. But, May is funny like that. And I was saying that to somebody earlier today. I remember years ago, probably 10 years ago, when I coached lacrosse at KP, and we played a tournament game against Catholic Memorial at CM the last week in May, and it was 54 degrees at face-off, and they were selling hot chocolate. So
yeah,
May around here can be very tricky because it lulls you into thinking, all right, it's going to be nice. We're turning the corner. The summer blockbuster movies are coming out. It's starting to feel like summer. It's 80 degrees. The sun is shining. You might get 2 or 3 consecutive days of sun, and then all of a sudden, bang, you get a day like today. And it's a reminder that New England weather-wise blows. There's a lot of great things about living up here, but there's also a lot of crappy things about living up here. Weather probably front and center on that list because today is a reminder of it. I just got home from my daughter's softball game, and it was freezing. Like I said, it didn't feel like it was May 19th. It felt more like it was March 30th than May 19th. Before we start the conversation here, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. If you are looking to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, you need someone like Herb in your corner when you're going through the purchasing process. Herb has the experience. He's seen it all. He can guide you through that process. Give him a call again at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Stone, you wrote a piece earlier today about Forged in Foxborough, which is a New England Patriots production chronicling Mike Vrabel's first season as head coach of the New England Patriots. It starts with his hiring, and it goes all the way through free agency, the draft, and OTAs, and eventually minicamp. You were able to watch episode 1. You wrote about it earlier today on anyfootballjournal.com. Thoughts on Forged in Foxborough? I've seen clips of it. I like what I've seen. But I also think this is your classic propaganda piece as well.
So look, and I know our good friend Andy Hart on WEI has said that today as well. And look, it's an off-season piece. So, of course, it's going to be positive, right? Like, it's a brand new coach, brand new system, brand new coaching staff, brand new everything. So, it's not going to be negative. You're not going to see, Mike Vrabel chirping a guy for not doing something right or anything like that. But you kind of do a little bit here and there. I thought it was really well done. If nothing else, look, we've always wanted the Patriots to be on Hard Knocks, right? This isn't Hard Knocks by any means, but it gives you a very good insight.
And I think this is as close as you're going to get to Hard Knocks with the Patriots.
Well, unless they, crap the bed this year, then they might not have a choice. But it's more in depth than I think we've ever seen out of them. And look, yes,
that's my point, that it's a propaganda piece, by the way.
So I agree with to a certain extent. Again, it's episode 1 as well, so let's remember that. But it's a lot of episode 1 was sort of a recap of Vrabel's hiring day, the introductory press conference, their sort of how they went about things during um, the scouting combine, the East West Shrine game, all that stuff. And really, that's where I thought you got a glimpse into stuff you wouldn't normally see, like the relationship between scouts and GM. And particularly in this case, we all know the conversation is mostly, is it Ryan Cowden? Is it Elliot Wolf? Who's in charge? And I think, at least for this episode, Elliot Wolf came off very strong. Like he really does have sort of a cemented piece or cemented role in that building. And I'm not sure we all knew that that was the case, but he's front and center in 80% of this first episode. And the collaboration is on full display. I mean, they take you inside the war room on draft night, really on all 3 nights. And if you remember during um, the second night, when we talked about round two, and they told us, frankly, they couldn't decide if they should take Travion Henderson or another player. We got to see that discussion last night. Turns out it was down to a receiver or Henderson. So stuff like that I just found really interesting that we wouldn't normally see. But I thought the biggest thing was Elliot Wolf's role to me. And just, again, we all kind of figured it's Ryan Cowden's team, right? But yeah, he's very involved and very vocal. But Elliot Wolf is firmly sort of being listened to and, I guess, for lack of a better term, taken seriously. And then just the on the field stuff. Um, look, you look at Vrabel, we know about the pads in practice and all that. But one of my favorite clips, he's yelling at a guy to hit him harder, and he yells, workers' comp is a great thing. Like he wants to get smoked by one of the players, so the player does the rep correctly during an OTA. So again, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Um, could you call it propaganda? Sure, but on one side, of course, it's going to be very lighthearted and sort of positive. Again, it's only May, but I do think it gives fans a glimmer of hope just in terms of what this might be if the guys keep listening to Vrabel and taking this staff seriously.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's Vrabel's team, not Ryan Cowden's team,
Sure.
right? I mean, look, Ryan Cowden's going to have a big voice in that front office.
Yeah.
I don't think he's when we think about structure, I still think Elliot Wolf is higher on the pecking order than him.
Yep.
I do think ultimately Vrabel is the tiebreaker. He is the final decision maker. Cowden will have his ear because of their history. They work together, of course, in Tennessee. He's a trusted lieutenant for Vrabel.
Yep.
He's going to have his ear. But I think one of the things that we could safely say about this offseason is, and this is to your point, Elliot Wolf's place in this organization is cemented. He has a place in this front office. He has a voice. He's going to play a role in the construction of this roster and the continued construction of this roster.
And just real quick before you go on, you see that in the documentary as well, or in this first episode. During draft night, it's those three sitting together in one row of the draft room. Behind them is Matt Groh, who I should have mentioned was relegated to, trade calling duty in terms of, letting the league know, which I found funny. But it's those three. It's those three and those three only. And Carmen Williams as well, I think, has a very loud voice in that room. You see it.
Well, he's gone now. He just took a job with the Broncos.
No, well, yeah, that's right. But during this first episode, he was
Cameron
very much
Williams.
involved. Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Thank you. He's very much involved.
Yeah. No, and again, look, I think that at the end of the day, again, they have to do these things, right? For years, it was Fort Knox, and it is propaganda. I mean, look, you want to sell hope here. You want to sell the fan base hope. You want to get them excited about the upcoming season. Obviously, they've done a lot in free agency. They've done a lot in the draft. They've added a lot of talent. A lot of people are bullish on the Patriots. Vegas is bullish on the Patriots. The expectation is that at minimum, this is an 8-9, 9-8 team, could potentially be 10-7, 11-6, and be a playoff team. So expectations are going to be high. They're playing 3 primetime games. Vrabel played here, won 3 Super Bowls. He has cachet as a coach. They want to put that front and center. They want the Patriots to be top of mind in this market again. And you know what? the opportunity is there. The Red Sox are mediocre. They can't get out of their own way. Tatum blows out his Achilles. The Celtics are going to be mediocre next year. They're going to fall back. The Bruins suck, which I love as a Canadiens fan. I hope they suck forever. So at the end of the day, there is an opportunity here for the Patriots to become top of mind again. And I think that this production does that for them. It makes them important. It makes them a topic of conversation in the offseason. You mentioned Andy Hart earlier. He's talking about it on EI. We're talking about it on the preeminent football show in the market, the New England football show. Yes, I said that because we talk football every week, not just when it's top of mind. But all that being said, I think this is a good thing because if the mission is to excite the fan base again, I've talked to a lot of people that have watched it. They loved it. It's working. That's happening. The fans are excited about this team again. They are excited about the upcoming season. And I like it if on the one hand, I think it's propaganda, Kevin, on the other hand, I like it because in my view, it is giving you that inside look that you rarely got under Belichick. Outside of 2009, when the league followed the team for a season and the occasional NFL film stuff, you didn't really get an inside glimpse of the inner workings of the Patriots during Belichick's tenure there, especially after Spygate. But now with Vrabel there, I think the Crafts, they want to open the doors. They want people to see the inner workings of the organization. And I think to a degree, Vrabel's comfortable with that too. Now, don't get me wrong. Once the season rolls around, they're not going to want you in team meetings. They're not going to want you in coordinator meetings or position meetings. You're not going to have access to that shit. But I think in the offseason, as long as they're not giving away any trade secrets, why not? This is smart on their part. Again, it makes the organization top of mind. They're front and center again, and Patriot fans are excited. Good friend of the show, Ken Mathias, joins us. He says, what was our reaction to the Bears offering the Patriots picks for pick 38? In my opinion, that's part of the draft process. Teams are going to do that. Obviously, the Bears had identified a player there that they wanted. That player could have potentially been Travion Henderson. Of course, they took Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden in the second round. Ken goes on to say, glad they drafted Henderson. Yeah, so am I. I mean, again, I think a lot of people got hung up on value and do they need a running back? At that point, best player available matters. He was the best player available. I love the pick. I think he gives them a dynamic playmaker that can add to their offensive attack, but also complement May in the passing game. So I love the pick. I have no problem with it. I'm glad that they stood pat and took Travion Henderson. Now, of course, Kevin, you're going to be up there tomorrow. Patriots are back at it with OTAs. It's open to the media, so you guys are going to be able to watch them practice. You're going to watch them practice, and you're going to be up there producing Patriot content for us. I am going to be on a field trip, actually, as part of my day job.
Anyway,
but there is a Patriot connection to my field trip. I'm going out to the Ron Burton Academy. Ron Burton, of course, was the first ever draft choice of the New England Patriots, father of Steve Burton, who has covered the Patriots forever, and the Burton family, who Kayla Burton, of course, Steve's daughter, she's over at NBC Sports Boston. Her sister Veronica plays in the WNBA. A couple of the other Burton brothers are also in media. So the Burton family is top-notch, first class, great people. So we're both going to be doing something Patriot-related tomorrow. But just some thoughts on OTAs. What are you expecting tomorrow? What are you hoping to see? What are you hoping to get out of it?
Well, first, I've only been out to the Burton Village once for my cousin's wedding, but that place is gorgeous.
It is. It's awesome.
Phenomenal place. But Drake May, number one. And two, I don't expect to see Stephon Diggs, but it'd be cool if we did. And look, we've heard a lot about his explosiveness from May, from Vrabel, from Josh McDaniels. So if he's out there, I'd be shocked, but it'd be a nice little treat. And I'm sure the fans would appreciate, getting a report or two on how he's doing. But just sort of how a practice looks under Vrabel, right? Like we know what it looks like under Mayo. And if you remember right, last year, I know it was only May, it was only OTAs, but there was a lot of standing around, both players and coaches. And I don't think you're going to see that tomorrow. And as you know, as a coach, no coach in any sport ever wants to see players standing around. It's always run to the next position, run to the next drill, be moving at all times. That wasn't the case all the time last year. And again, I know it's only OTAs, but it's about culture. It's about setting that tone. And one other thing, the very last clip that you see in episode one is Vrabel. He's breaking down the team during one of the OTAs or the voluntary workouts. Excuse me. And he says, if our lines work their asses off the way you did today, the offensive and defensive line, we're gonna beat a lot of people. So I think it's propaganda, but if those lines are cohesive and
Well,
working
it's
well
a fact.
together,
If they're good up front, yeah,
yeah,
he's not
exactly, yeah,
wrong. I don't give a shit who it is. If you're good up front, he's right. You are going to beat a lot of people, including the Patriots. The
correct.
Patriots will beat a lot of people if they get better offensive line play and their defensive line ends up being as good as we think they could be.
Right. So him saying that now, after a couple of days of OTAs or whichever number of voluntary workout that was filmed after, it's kind of give you confidence. So I want to see if that work ethic and that intensity is there tomorrow for an OTA, and of course the rookies, right? Like you want to see how they assimilate to an NFL workout with veteran teammates around. So yeah, it's only May, but I feel like there's a lot to watch for tomorrow.
There's a ton to watch for. You want to see how much May has developed this offseason. You want to see some of the new faces in a scheme setting, in a team setting for that matter. You mentioned Stephon Diggs. You want to see some of the rookies integrated. So there is a lot to look at tomorrow. There's a lot there to watch. And again, it really in a lot of ways, especially for the media, this is really going to be a get to know you period between these OTAs and next month's mini camp. It's going to be all about getting to know these new guys, getting to see how they're used, and getting to see how they fit in. Because once you get into fall camp at the end of July, they've been around the organization enough now through the spring that we'll have a better understanding of how they're going to fit in and how they're going to work. But that initial impression that we're going to have of these guys is now. And it's been going on this spring. But of course, the media is going to get a firsthand at practice tomorrow. And I think you bring up a good point, too. You want to see how they practice under Vrabel. Now, I'm not going to use this as an opportunity to slap around Mayo in the way they practiced last year. I think that's ridiculous and unfair. But I am curious to see how they practice under Vrabel. We know he's very hands-on. We know that depending on the circumstances, he may throw on the chest pad and get in there and mix it up. And yeah, that'll get the media's attention, and the fans will like that. And some Patriot fans will be like, yeah, see, there's our guy, Vrabel. That's what we've been missing. That'll get people excited. But the reality is, I want to see how practice is structured. I want to see how practice is running. Are guys moving around? Is there high effort? Is the execution smooth? Are they operating at a high level? Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that you should be looking at, not the fact that Vrabel's running around with a chest pad and he's getting smacked around by the offensive line or Will Campbell or Milton Williams or whoever the hell else is effing him up. The bottom line is you want to look at the operation and come away impressed because we know what kind of a player Mike Vrabel was, and we have enough of an idea of what kind of a coach he has been in his coaching career. I mean, he basically ended the Brady Belichick era with that playoff win here in 2019. It was Tom Brady's last game. So we know what he can do as a coach. We know he had success in Tennessee. Now I want to see him apply what he did in Tennessee to make him successful here. I think practice is a first good indication of what this football team could be.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, or continue the point. We see one point last night, or in the episode, when he's coaching Houston, and he's yelling at Courtney Brown, I believe, coming off the field. And you remember all the comparisons we've heard about him and Parcells. And as Brown comes off the field, you see Vrabel, he's yelling, of course he's hurt, or of course he's tired. And all I could think of was the she comment, she's fine, about Terry Glenn from Parcells. You absolutely see that type of guy in him in some of these clips. So I love it. It's exactly what they need. But you also saw the video and part of this episode that they put out last week where he's with Caden Wallace in the center of the meeting room and he's talking about going along with him for the ride. And again, this isn't to rip Mayo. It's just to sort of contrast what we have right now. If you remember right, Mayo said last year that once they get between the white lines, we can't help them. So it's already very different just in terms of the messaging and stuff like that. But you're right. I am very curious to see what an actual on-field practice under him looks and sounds like tomorrow. But I think they're in good hands already. Yes, I'm buying into the propaganda a little bit, but it's hard not to be positive when things have been so bad the last few years.
Ken checks back in. Henderson definitely has much upside, and him working along Stevenson should potentially be a 1-2 punch also with Antonio Gibson thrown in. Well, I think that's the plan. The two veterans are going to be your 1 and 2, but I think Henderson's going to be that change of pace slasher in the run game and that threat in the passing game. He's the best receiving back in the draft class. He can run a full route tree. He's the best pass protecting back in the class. He's going to play a lot. I don't think, even though I think initially it's going to be Stevenson, Gibson, they may get the brunt of the work early. This kid's going to cut into those snaps, and he's going to play more snaps as camp goes on and as the season goes on. He's too dynamic not to get on the field. And with Josh McDaniels back and them running a lot of those Patriot concepts that they ran for 20-plus years under Belichick with Brady, you're going to see a lot of those concepts. You're going to see the running back emphasized in the passing game. I think Henderson is going to carve a pretty big role for himself in this offense as the season progresses. Ken checks back in and says, Kevin, heading into OTAs, what are you looking for or expecting with this current group of players and especially the veterans in May? Well, you kind of sort of talked about that. Maybe give Ken here a Cliff Notes version of what you said earlier.
Yeah, for me, it's the offense first and foremost, of course. Drake May. I don't think we're going to see Stephon Diggs, but I certainly hope so, of course. Now that we talked through it, I forgot to mention that receiver group has 12 in the room, I think. So, like, who can start to separate? And I know you're not going to have, a true evaluation in May, but Kendrick Bourne is one guy I'm really going to kind of try to watch and see where he's at. Last year, he's talked about he wasn't right last year coming off that injury, and obviously, having to sort of mentor those young guys didn't make things any easier. But mostly the offense for me. And although I will say, and you can speak to this a little bit better, defensively, not having Terrell Williams there this early, sort of the infant stages of them, laying the foundation. How important is that, or is it?
No, it is important. He needs to be there. Unfortunately, he's had the health scare and he can't. He's participated in the install. He's participated in meetings. He's still playing a big role in the installation of the defense and the teaching of it. But to your point, not being on the field, and as far as we know, he's not going to be there tomorrow. We don't know that officially. He very well could be. But one has to assume, based on his press conference a couple of weeks ago, that he's not going to be there. If that's the case, yeah, you're gonna be looking at those young assistants to step up and those position coaches to fill his shoes at practice. But you hope he's healthy enough that at some point this offseason he's back on the field and he's calling the defense and they could get a feel for how he calls a game and he could get a feel for how to use his personnel and the players and how to put them in positions to succeed. So, yeah, it's vitally important that at some point, if not tomorrow, at some point before training camp starts, if they get Williams back here to Foxborough and they get him on the field coaching the defense.
Yeah, and the other thing defensively, obviously to watch for is all the new guys, right? Like Millie Williams and Christian Barmore as well. Now that we talked through it, it's all popping in my head. I'm going to have to write this down before tomorrow. But Barmore and Williams together, like, what does that look like? Especially after Barmore said last week that he thinks he's good to go. So, and then, of course, Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez, you might have a 1-2, walk down corner combo as well. So I know I just said it, but there's a ton to watch in this first OTA or first open OTA tomorrow.
Yeah, and of course, Williams and Barmore both spoke last week, and they talked about how they've developed this competitive relationship where they're competing to see who gets to the facility
which is
first. They compete in everything they do. And look, I think sometimes the word competition can be overstated in football, but it's vitally important. It's vitally important in every sport, but in many ways more so in football because you're not playing every other night. You're playing once a week, and you've got to find a way, whether it be out of season, in season, you've got to find a way to foster competition to keep the players engaged, to keep them interested, and to get the most out of them. So I think it's refreshing. I think it's great to see that these guys are competitive with each other like that, and that they're competing even with something as simple as getting to the facility first. I think that competitiveness now will foster competitiveness in the summer and eventually during the season. So I think it's great to see, and to a degree, I think it speaks to the culture that Vrabel has established in his short time back here in New England.
Yeah, just to add to that, it's good for the other guys in the room too, right? So, like, we remember Keon White at the end of last year. He felt like he didn't want to be here anymore. Well, the other day, Barmore was asked, he mentioned about trash talk. He said him and Keon White probably do the most trash talking. So maybe it reinvigorates a guy like that who needs, not a kick in the ass, but a reason to be rejuvenated in this system, especially having been here for some down times early on. So I just think that competition is huge for the locker room too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's important to point out is in this scheme, they're going to cut those guys loose. They're going to cut White loose. They're going to cut Williams loose. They're going to cut Barmore loose. They're not going to be absorbing double teams and controlling gaps. They're going to be taking gaps, and I think that that's the important piece here. It's more of an attacking up the field scheme where you're looking to reset the line of scrimmage and create problems for the offense in the backfield. And the other thing that's going to be important is talking about Keon White, like Milton Williams. He's going to play all over in this front. You're going to have him at a 5 technique. He's going to play the 9. He's in sub packages. He's going to kick inside to a 3. He's going to even maybe kick inside to a 2-eye. Same thing with Milton Williams. These guys are going to play a lot of snaps, and they're going to line up all over the place. And I think that's going to make the Patriots even harder to prepare for in many ways and to attack, because you're going to have versatile players all along that front that can do a lot of different things. Same thing goes for Harold Landry. Same thing goes for Robert Spillane. These are going to be guys that can wear multiple hats along your front and create problems for the offense. So I think going back to that competition piece, I think that's where it's great. That's where it's a good thing, that you're fostering that mentality and you're building now. Your players have embraced it. And not only have they embraced it from Vrabel down along with the staff, but they've embraced it to where they're competing with each other within position groups and even outside of position groups. Again, it's great to see. You love to see it. So, of course, we'll get to see more of that tomorrow. Kevin will be there for Patriots OTAs. Make sure you follow along for his update. Plenty of content for you after practice is over as well. All right. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I do want to remind you that if you are looking to enter the market, either as a seller buyer, as a first-time home buyer, or you're looking to refinance, then you need to give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. It's that time of the year. The spring real estate season has been upon us now for a while. We're rolling along here. Properties are coming on the market every day. There's some inventory out there. If you're ready to make a move, now is the time. You need someone like Herb Devine in your corner with over 27 years of experience. Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to guide you through the process. Again, give him a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. As always, he and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Stone, let's pivot here and talk some college football. The transfer portal never sleeps. It's constantly open. Teams are constantly open for business. Coaches are constantly looking for players. Hard to believe, but I'm doing a portal report for the big 3 in our area this week, UMass, UConn, Boston College. And when I look at what UMass and UConn have done in the portal, it's crazy. UMass, as of today, and they had a couple more portal commitments this weekend, as of today, UMass has brought in 33 players in the transfer portal. This is proof of why the portal is such a topic of conversation now, because especially for first-year head coaches, it's an opportunity to really reset your roster. Joe Harris-Simiak and staff aren't fooling around. They are using the portal to reset this roster. And it's interesting because we had a lot of boots on the ground last week with the showcase days, and we talked to a lot of people both at the showcase days and privately, and a lot of people have said to me that they're very impressed with the approach that Harasimiak is taking here, that they're trying to find this balance at UMass between the portal, but also building organically through high school recruiting. And the approach that UMass is taking in this process is getting people's attention. But again, I was blown away. 33 players as of right now have entered the program in the portal. They've had a lot of turnover as well. A lot of players have left the program, a lot of players that were key contributors the last 2 years. But again, it illustrates how much a first-year coach has to turn the roster over to turn the program around.
So I look at it two ways. One, a program like UMass doesn't have a choice. Going into a brand new conference, you're going to be on national television. You need all the positivity you can get. You also need to win some games and win them now. So you need guys with experience. I get it. You have to go hard in the portal. Same thing with UConn, right? Like you just came off a historic season. You need to keep the momentum going. But then on the flip side of that, we talk about it a lot. And we were at showcases, like you mentioned last week, where high school kids are trying to get noticed. It's going to continue to hurt the high school recruiting. And as much as coaches, want to develop and recruit and develop, I should say, their own kids, and it sounds good. This is a win now business. You know that,
Yeah.
especially in college. So having to walk that fine line, you feel bad for the high school kid, the 2 and 3 star, because odds are they're not going to get as many looks as they would have otherwise. But then again, if you're a fan of these teams and you have all these new faces coming in who may have won somewhere else or at least know what winning looks, feels, and sounds like, well, it's good because now, hey, our program might not suck. And look, I'm glad UMass and UConn are doing this. The quicker they're better, the better for all of us involved in this region and covering them and rooting and watching them. But on the other side, we also cover the high school recruiting aspect, and it sucks for a lot of these kids. So I'm so torn in the portal and just how everything is run and the entire recruiting scene in general. But for UMass and UConn fans, they should be thrilled. This is a commitment to wanting to win now, and ultimately that's most important, I think.
Yeah, good friend Bill Vaughn checks in. Bill, great hearing from you as always, man. Any insight on the Zavarian kid who just committed to UMass today? Yes, I'm going to get into that in a sec. I actually spoke to David Chivagato tonight. But UMass, in the last 3 days, has brought in defensive back Raheem Sexo from FIU. He's coming in from Florida International. Matthew Oganai from Rutgers. He's a tight end, really athletic. You watch his tape. He's one of these detached YU guys that can move around, create matchups underneath and in the middle of the field. He's going to be a quarterback's favorite target pretty quickly. I like what they've done. They also brought in Reese Atkins, the transfer from Central Florida. I really like what they've done with their tight end room. The tight end's going to be emphasized a lot. In Mike Bajakian's offense, I think you're going to see a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. So UMass is going to play with multiple tight ends a lot this season. They continue to beef up that room. They also fortified the offensive line with Duke transfer Zachary Franks. And today they added Syracuse running back Brandon Hood, who's been well-traveled. He's also played at North Texas, Syracuse, and most recently New Mexico State University. So he's well-traveled, but he adds depth. He was actually at Colorado most recently, but he's well-traveled, but he adds depth to a running back room that really needs it. It's been a running back room, too, that if you go back to the beginning of this offseason has been depleted. Of course, C.J. Hester transfers to Maryland. Jalen John transfers to Coastal Carolina. And Jackson Paradis had to take a medical retirement. So they had some spots open in that room, and Hood is going to be a nice addition to what they already have. Now, as far as David Chivagato is concerned, spoke to Dave tonight. I've known that family. So his father, I went to high school with his father, I believe. I'd have to double check. I'm 50. I'm old. I don't remember this shit. But I've known the name. There's a couple of Norwood names on that roster that I'm familiar with. But David is a great kid. Coaches love him. They speak very highly of him, both Coach Finaro, Coach White, who I'm friends with and is on the staff. Tremendous guy and tremendous coach and somebody that I trust when it comes to their opinion on players. Bill, I think you're going to love this kid. Really good athlete. He's going to be Zavarian's number one wide receiver this year. He's their most gifted skill player along with Christian McIntyre. They're both very dynamic skill players. But he's going to make a lot of plays for them. He made a lot of plays for them offensively last year. But David told me tonight that he's going to play safety at UMass. So he's going to play safety and return kicks. He's a dynamic athlete who could do a lot of different things. And I'm curious to see how UMass uses him defensively. I think in sub packages, he's going to play in some 3 safety looks. He can also play in the slot as a nickel or even as a dime if you go 6 defensive backs. But he's a really good athlete, smart, good football player, great kid, well coached. He's going to bring that pedigree with him to Amherst. And he's a kid that he's athletic enough that he could probably play sooner than later. But this is a really nice addition for UMass. Coach Harasimiak offered him in person at Zavarian earlier this year. He's a really good get for them. I thought he was criminally under-recruited, to be honest with you. I thought he should have had more interest and more offers. I think UMass capitalized on that, offered him at the right time. They stayed with him. David stayed loyal with him. And I think now you're going to get a good football player who not only helps you on the field, but he helps you off the field from a recruiting standpoint because he's a local kid that stayed home and he's playing for UMass.
You can't overstate the importance of bringing in a kid who's won, too. Like, I know he's only won in high school, but for a program
back-to-back Super Bowl champion, that's huge.
So,
and to your point, Kevin, for a program that needs that, that's huge. That's a program that needs guys that have won before, that winning culture.
Again, I know it's only high school, but when you haven't won in God knows how long, you can't have enough guys who have in that locker room.
No, absolutely not. Bill checks back in. Yep, that's what I call inside thanks. Yeah. Well, again, we know covering the one advantage we have, and I appreciate that, Bill, but the one advantage we have is both in terms of our high school coverage and our college coverage and even our NFL draft coverage, especially with the local kids, is we've covered these guys. That's not a knock on other people in the market, but we know the kids. We know the players. And so when it comes to high school recruiting, when it comes to local talent in the NFL draft, we've covered these guys. We've been around them at practices. It's way beyond watching them on TV and formulating an opinion. So for us, getting an opportunity to talk about a terrific young man like David and talking about the player that he's been at Zavarian, we've covered him enough that we feel very confident in what we think he can do at the next level. And of course, as you mentioned, UConn is also or has also been very active in the portal. It's hard to believe the amount of turnover that program has gone through coming off a 9-4 season and a Fenway Bowl win, but they have brought in 26 guys this offseason in the portal. Some local names have transferred to UConn. Ty Chan, who played at Lawrence Academy, of course, he's going to be in the mix for them at offensive tackle. Hayden Bozich, who started at left tackle for Brown the last couple of years, he transferred to UConn. He's going to be in the mix. They also reshaped their entire defensive line. They brought in several new faces, and they continue to fortify the defensive line. But look, it just goes to show you this is the lay of the land. And one of the things I like about this UConn portal class is that Mora and his staff didn't just go out and get guys from Power 4 schools or Group of 5 schools. They've gone into the FCS ranks. They've even gone into the D2 ranks. They're bringing in guys that fit what they want from a cultural and schematical standpoint. And it's hard to argue, Kevin, with Mora's success. He has had tremendous success. When it comes to recruiting and bringing in talent that fits what they want to do, I trust him completely. Like, to me, I'm never going to guess Jim Mora when it comes to the type of players that he brings into this program, because he's established a culture there where he knows what he wants in terms of the type of people he wants in his program and in that locker room.
He's also not afraid to call other coaches out. I mean, how many times have we?
He's great like that.
And look, it happens everywhere. We know it, but when he's trying to rebuild something that was so down for so long, I don't blame him for getting uptight and bitching about other coaches, sort of going about things unethically. Could UConn be, try to skate by a rule here and there. Who knows? We have no idea. But um, to his credit and to your point, he's bringing in the right guys for that program. Like, not everybody's going to want to go to Storrs, Connecticut. Like, I get that. It's not the most beautiful college football town in America, but he's getting
Well, I
guys
don't think, with all due respect, I don't think any of these guys give a shit about beautiful
no,
college football towns.
no,
It's about opportunity. It's about
right,
getting on campus, playing, and preparing themselves to play in the NFL. They don't, you know what? A lot of these college towns do not look like they do Saturday on your television screen. A
correct.
lot of them are in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
A lot of them are small, sleepy communities where the college is the hub of the community. I mean, Storrs is really no different than Happy Valley. Storrs is really no different than going down to Athens, Georgia, where you're driving forever and all of a sudden, bang, there's Athens, Georgia, and Sanford Stadium. I mean, so I'm not defending UConn here, being the defender of UConn, but I'm telling you that doesn't factor into kids anymore. They don't care.
No, that's my point, is the fact that they're getting guys that just care about ball, that don't care about this to town or, what the nightlife might be like in Stores. That's what I'm saying, is he's making sure guys only care about football. The old Will Campbell line, I'm not here for fun, I'm here for football. And I think that's what you're getting with most of the guys that are heading to UConn. And look, you said it, it's hard to argue with two bowl appearances in 3 years. Coming in again from where that program was, to reach two bowl games in a short amount of time and win 9 games. Look, I know they had 6 home games last year, but or 6 in a row last year. You can't argue with results. So he's doing everything he can to get that place back to where it was. I still wish they were in a conference. I know their fan base does as well, but
They still need that. I mean,
yeah, they really do.
despite all the success that they've had the last 2 out of the last 3 years, they need to get in a conference. And they know that. I had a really good talk with some people on campus when I went down there for the spring visit, and they know. They know that that's vitally important to their long-term success and the sustainability of the football program, and they're working towards it, but it is not something that's going to be easily achievable. I think the people that I talked to down there that day all said that to me, that we may want it, but it's not as easy as people think it is to make it happen.
No, and so again, to that point, to get the kids committed there and willing to come there, especially portal guys, when those guys, if anything, are looking for maybe one last shot at winning football, at winning a conference title or going to the playoffs at some point. So to get guys maybe in their 5th year that just want to play ball, that's impressive.
Yeah, and of course, the last 4 commits in the portal for UConn, 2 of them are coming out of the Gardner-Webb football program. To my point earlier, that he's not just recruiting guys in the portal from Power 4 schools or Group of 5 schools. DeAndre Glover, a cornerback, 5'11", 180, played at Gardner-Webb. Antonio Harris Jr., an edge out of Utah State. He's coming. And, of course, they had to revamp the defensive line with all the departures that they had. Marquise Black, another Gardner-Webb guy. Big, long, 3-tech, 5-tech type at 6'4", 305. He's coming in from a smaller program. And Naeem Simmons, wide receiver from South Florida, is the latest portal player, I should say, to commit to UConn. So, again, to the point that I was making earlier, Mora is not just sitting there saying, we just want guys. And there are guys in this class from Penn State and some of the bigger schools, Maryland. But he's looking at it and saying, we want guys that can play, that are athletic, that can also come in and fit our system and what we like to do. Again, he's not going to be a snob about it. He's going to go out and add players that fit what they want to do. I think that they did that this offseason. Now, of course, the other big story this week in college recruiting in the area is Boston College's 2026 class is currently ranked 22nd on ESPN's top 25 recruiting classes for 2026. It's actually their top 50 class. That's impressive to me. And we've been talking about this 2026 class now for about a year, because when O'Brien took the job, they knew that they were behind the 8 ball in terms of the 25s, but with the 26s, that kind of became their focal point. and they really picked up a lot of commitments. They have 12 commitments in that group. And what's most impressive to me, Kevin, is that the majority of that class is local guys, which speaks to the strength of the talent that we have here in New England, that you can have a top 25 recruiting class, and the majority of that class, I believe 8 of the 12 players or 7 of the 12 players, I'd have to look at the list, 7 to 8 of the 12 players on that list are New England guys. That was almost unheard of 25 years ago. But again, it just goes to show you that there's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of good coaching here. Guys are playing good ball. And Boston College, and I will say this, I've heard this forever, going all the way back to Dan Henning and Tom O'Brien and guys before Kevin Stone's time, that they want to put a fence around New England. To O'Brien's credit, he has done that, especially with this 2026 class. He and his staff have done a really good job of adding a lot of the top talent in that class in the area, and it's paying off because now they're nationally recognized for it.
Yeah, the first coach I remember is Tom Coughlin, so I don't know if that gets you anywhere, but
See,
look,
I didn't think you would have remembered Coughlin. I think
yeah.
you would have been more of a Tom O'Brien,
So
Frank Spaziani.
O'Brien more than Coughlin, but I do remember some of those early Coughlin days. But you said exactly.
When were you born?
88.
87?
88.
88?
Yeah.
So you remember those teams? What were you, 4 or 5 years old? You remember them?
Sort of my first BC watching memories. Not vivid, but
don't give me this bullshit that you had a Glenn Foley jersey at 4. You
No.
didn't have a Glenn Foley jersey at 4, Stone.
I've never had a BC jersey ever. If I was a fan still,
that's pretty good remembering though. If you can remember those teams, because like I said, you were 4, 5, 6 years old.
No.
I don't remember what I did the other day. Never mind when I was 5.
Hey, I'm lucky I can remember my own name.
That's what you have to look forward to, by the way, as you get older.
Hey, so I'm not that good at it right now in terms of memory. But to your original point, that's exactly what I was going to say. Bill O'Brien said it immediately when he got hired. Every coach says it. Halfley said it. Everybody said it. But to do it is another thing. And to do it as early as they have is another thing as well. But I guess it's mostly local guys. But you also have the national kids that are on board there as well. And look, you mentioned camp season coming up. There's going to be a lot more names that I think get added to that class, especially out of the BC camp. I believe their quote-unquote mega camp is June 1st. It's a Sunday.
It is.
Do not be surprised when, Twitter starts lighting up about kids that either offered or are now part of the Eagles program. I think this month of June is going to be massive around the country. It always is. It's arguably the biggest time of the year, but particularly this year, again, we mentioned the staff got a late start on that 25, but they've been all in on 26, 27, 28. This is a chance this month, particularly, to really clean up both locally and nationally with all the camps going on. So I'm expecting Twitter to be, very, very active, and especially with BC sort of being at the forefront of that with local names, coming off the board.
Yeah, and camp season, in essence, has already started. Of course, you have the Under Armour camp this weekend as well, and we're wrapping up the showcases this week. We've got the MVC showcase on Wednesday night. Our Macaulay Kabongo is going to be there for that. But camp season is here, and to your point, you're going to see more names added to that list. And there's a lot of, the local talent on that list. I can't say it enough. It's really, really impressive. And again, it just speaks to the fact that class became a point of emphasis for O'Brien as soon as he walked into his office and his stuff was moved in. They said, you know what? We can't win 25 locally, but we can win 26. We can really go out there and fortify our roster and set this program up in the future. And you look at the guys that have committed. Mason Leak, the edge rusher out of Avon Old Farms, he's committed. Mac Fitzgerald, defensive end out of Catholic Memorial. Marcelino Antunes, the big tackle from CM, he's committed. Brady Beckenhouse, the big tackle from Arlington, he's committed. You look at Marek Jin, the other offensive tackle from Phillips Andover Academy. Phillips Exeter Academy. He's committed. Dominic Funk from Zavarian. He's committed. Dean Ricksteinis from Williston, Northampton. He's committed. So right then and there, I just rattled off 7 names.
A lot of big boys on that list.
And that's just it. That's where, and I've said this to people, I've said it to college coaches, I've said it to people in the recruiting service world, that you're producing linemen here. And in an era where there is a lineman shortage nationally, you're producing linemen here, which is huge. Whether they be offensive line, defensive linemen, you're getting big bodies.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's smart about this class for O'Brien and his staff. They focused on the trenches, and they were able to get some of the top talent in that class in the area.
And I think you're going to see even more, particularly offensive and defensive linemen. That NFL draft a couple weeks ago, and I think we talked about it, that did wonders for recruiting with Ozzie and Drew and Jack Tomlin getting signed and Donovan, obviously going to Dallas. You can't teach that kind of exposure. You can't get that anywhere else. So when we talk about O-line U, they are firmly back, in that conversation, even going back a couple years with Zion Johnson. And look what he's done for the Chargers in his time in the NFL. So, they are producing some big bodies again, and that list just sort of proves that kids believe in, maybe more so than anybody else, Matt Applebaum. I'll give that guy his credit whenever I can, because Ozzie and Drew have said, single-handedly, he's sort of propelled them to the players that they are today. So between Matt Applebaum and Will Walling, the OC, and the experience O'Brien has, it's been massive these last few weeks for them.
And they've added some wide receivers in that group too. Alex Voss out of North Carolina. You also have DJ Biggins out of Connecticut. He's a Kingswood Oxford kid. Steve Klein, who's an athlete out of New Jersey. So they've added some skill in that group too, but that's a really talented class. And again, you can see why they're a top 25 recruiting class in the class of 2026 for Boston College. And that was smart by O'Brien. He kind of knew he had to play with what he had in 25, but now going into year 2, he's got a lot more to work with here. I think, again, when you look at it, they're in a pretty good position here now to really capitalize, as you said, with camp season approaching and everything else. They're in a really good spot here to add to that group. And speaking of which, of course, as we said, Showcase Week is wrapping up this week. Of course, last Monday, you had the NEPSAC Connecticut showcases. It really started last weekend with the Hockomock League showcase over at Mansfield High School. Then you had Connecticut on Monday. You had the Massachusetts showcase days on Tuesday for the NEPSAC schools. And then on Thursday night, you had the Catholic Conference showcase day. Great turnout by the college coaches, Kevin. I mean, you had over 120 coaches that attended on Monday and Tuesday. I believe you had close to 30 coaches that were at the Hockomock League showcase last Sunday. You also had, I believe, 60 coaches that were at the Catholic Conference showcase on Thursday night. Look, again, this goes back to what I said earlier. Look at some of the talent that worked out at these showcases. And not only that, there are guys now, starting with the Connecticut showcase day last Monday, there are guys that were kind of, I don't want to say under the radar, but they weren't the household names in the recruiting process. Now, all of a sudden, those guys have become household names, and it's huge. And I think, again, it illustrates to my earlier point that college coaches know there's talent here. I mean, you're seeing it, right? Like, look at Keegan Croucher, the quarterback from Cheshire Academy. He's got 11 offers, but that's going to double now. By the time you get to July, he's going to be north of 20 offers. I mean, big, strong, 6'5", 205-pound quarterback who can sling it. He can make every throw in the playbook. He's athletic. He's a 3-sport athlete. Those are guys that might be flying under the radar, but once you get to these showcase days, bang, they pop, and all of a sudden they become household names.
Yeah, it goes back to my point about, having to get noticed even more now if you're a high school kid, really having to take advantage of all these showcases, because if you're not going to pop, they're going to find a portal kid to fill that spot instead. So, and not only that, like for like the freshmen, sophomores, really sophomore, juniors at these things, that's where it's critical, because you might have, a few looks here and there from an FCS school, but if 1 or 2 FBS schools decide, oh crap, we need to start looking at this kid, well, now everything changes for you, because 1 or 2 FBS offers roll in, other programs start to say, wait a minute, what are we missing? Let's go take a look at this kid again. So the trickle-down effect for all of these showcases is massive.
It's huge. And then you look at a kid like Charlie Tom down at Avon Old Farms, played at Darien. I mean, he's blowing up right now. This is a kid who was a tight end at Darien. He PGs, goes to Avon Old Farms. And all of a sudden now, you're talking about a kid who's 6'6", 270, 275 pounds. He's moving to left tackle, and now he's got visits lined up at Wake Forest, and he's getting offers from Nebraska. He's getting Ivy League offers from Princeton. Like, he's blowing up. So my point is, and then you look at the Massachusetts kids. I mean, you were at Dexter Southfield. You were at Belmont Hill on Tuesday. Those guys, all of a sudden, a lot of those guys are starting now to start to get offers. You've seen it firsthand in attending those showcase days.
Yeah, I mean, Dexter, I'll start with Dexter. Rory Funk is sort of the big name there, the quarterback, I believe 28. Look at the roster right now. Yeah, 28. He's got, I think, 11, 12 offers, if not more already. Kid like Charlie Hannafin, receiver, defensive back. He flew in his 40. I think it was a 4.5. Charles Carpenter Sims, same thing, receiver, defensive back. He was impressive in drills, and some kid, you could hear scouts saying, "Oh, wait a minute, like, who's this kid?" For the ones that didn't know.
College coaches, not scouts.
Sorry. College coaches. But and just to go back to real quick before I get to Belmont Hill kids, the amount of colleges that were represented, North Carolina at the Dexter one, and obviously they have Anthony Hall, U-Haul nickname. They had 5 guys. It's the best nickname in the country, probably.
Anthony U-Haul.
It's the best. They had 5 guys there, UNC. Like, Michigan had 2 that I saw a couple of times. Again, every, big name school that you could think of were at some of these things. So the exposure, you can't overstate the exposure. And then Belmont Hill, a kid like Nick Fumera, who's got 20 offers already. He got 3 from the time I left Belmont Hill to the time I called him to ask him a question, for the story. And he was tweeting about those offers that night. Reese Little, and I keep calling him Reese. I don't think it's Reese. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, I believe. But quarterback, senior quarterback, or soon to be senior quarterback. He was slinging it all over the field, sort of getting the oohs and ahs out of some college coaches. So there's, again, you can't overstate what these showcases mean to these kids, especially the ones that aren't getting noticed as much. And again, I keep going back to the portal, but it's so important because, again, if you're not going to show out in these type of settings, you're going to get overlooked now. It's how things are going. So I was very happy to see those kids. Really, all the kids that we covered. We were lucky enough to get to 6 of the 9 in the Massachusetts area. Really, every single one either had great attendance from college coaches or great performances from standout kids, or both. So just a great week overall for high school football in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, our Paul Valzella covered the showcase days down in Tabor Academy, and Jeff Moore's got a wagon down there with all the talent he has. Of course, you got Peter Bork, Caden Drinkwater in the 27 class, but same thing with Botan Varga. But then Carter Gooden in the 26 class, Marcus Almada as well. Like, there's just so much talent there. And I think it speaks to, again, the job that Moore has done in terms of bringing those student athletes to Tabor. Same thing with Milton Academy. Of course, Karan McNeil is there, a quarterback, among others. They have a really good group there, a couple of young linemen coming up as well that are impressive. And of course, Marky Walbridge over at St. Sebastian. So a lot of talent in Massachusetts in the NEPSAC schools. But I also think, as you saw on Thursday night with the Catholic Conference, there's a lot of talent in the Catholic Conference as well. Of course, we mentioned Dave Chivagato earlier, Christian McIntyre at Zavarian. You've got Christopher Vargas, of course, quarterback at St. John's Prep, among others. CM, as we know, has a lot of talent back. Isaiah Fabulous. We mentioned Mac Fitzgerald. Kais Flannery, who's committed to Harvard. He's back. Marcelino Antunes. They've got a really good team back. And again, when you look at who their best player might be, Ramar Thomas, the soon-to-be sophomore. He's a stud athlete. He's going to be the next. He's already committed to Boston College. He's going to be the next big-time athlete to come out of that program. So those guys got to show you what they could do on Thursday night. And this Wednesday night, like I said, the MVC, the Merrimack Valley Conference, is going to be having their showcase on Wednesday night at Andover High School. And as I mentioned, our Mukala Kabongo is going to be there for that one. All right, Stone, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
Nope, same thing we said earlier. Hang with us, the Patriots coverage this week. We'll have minicamp pretty soon, 3 days of minicamp, June 9th, 10th, and 11th, I believe. But no, stay with us. And as usual, you always say it, all football all the time. So it might feel like we're sort of in a dead period, but we are absolutely not.
No, we got plenty with the portal. We got plenty with recruiting. We're going to have a ton of recruiting stuff, ton of recruiting content now coming up over the next 6 weeks as we head into the summer. Lots of recruiting content on anyfootballjournal.com. So make sure you stay tuned for that. That'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. Till next week, we hope you have a happy and safe week. Peace.
See ya.